Hey guys, and how's it going? This is going to be part 2 on this 1969-1970 Amante GT kit car based on a VW chassis Type 3 is what's underneath it. It has been sitting since 1977. It's an old inspection sticker on it. And I bought it as is with a stuck engine. In the last video, we kind of went through the car, took a quick look at it, and ended up taking the engine out of it. Tore the engine down and found out that the engine is locked up. It seems like it's seized on all the cylinders. Can't get any of the jugs off. And at that point, decided to move forward with something else. And that something else is another engine that the car actually came with, which is this one right here. So we took all the tins, got all the rusty sheet metal off of this one. This one looked worse, but it did spin most of the way around. We took the cylinder heads off and found there was a bunch of crud. First in the intake and exhaust ports that went into the cylinder, and then the piston just couldn't come all the way up. It was squeezing that crap between the cylinder and the head. Took the heads off, cleaned them up real quick, put it back together, did a compression test on it, and got a decent bottom end to work with. So we're going to move forward with that now. I think we're going to go and pop the cylinder heads back off. Let's get the valves out of them, see if we can clean that stuff up, and just kind of give everything a once over and move forward with getting an engine in the car. Let's do it. And on the last video, I was wrestling with starters, trying to find one that would operate for it. We had one that was okay. Took the one out of the car, kind of go check to see how that one was, and that seems much better. So at least we know that one's good, and we'll use that for the testing of it in the stand. See if it looks any different after a run. Look pretty good. I'm running the old head gaskets too. I didn't put new ones on. We were just doing a breakdown run. Plus I got the heads on the wrong side. This is actually the one for the other side because it's got the head temp sensor. That goes on the driver's side. Not that it really matters. That doesn't get hooked up on this. Anyways, you can get a valve or two out of it. This is a homemade spring compressor I made. It's just a C-clamp. I don't know if it's going to work for this. We are going to find out right about now, I guess. Hopefully it opens large enough. She looks pretty good. Of course, all the crap we can clean off the stems and all. And we'll lap them in. So I'm going to go pull all the valves out. I'll bring you back when I have them all out. We take a look and see if anything looks extraordinarily kind of weird. So far, so good. I was expecting to see a bunch of pitting. We haven't looked at the seat yet on the head, but we will shortly. Got them all out now. I'd say they look, this is the first one we took that we already saw. See, that one's got some crud going on it, huh? That's not making a very good seal. Hopefully that's just crap on the end of the valve and not metal. If so, then that valve is really hammered. But I think it's just a bunch of carbon and crap. We'll take them on a wire and we'll clean them up. Guides feel pretty good. One's got a little bit of slop. One of the intakes have a very little bit of side play. Let's see what we got going on here. a little rough. I can see the texture of it. Again, they're just from sitting too. Here's some rust on this one. Let's definitely get some. So it's good because this means if we clean it up, our numbers are just going to get better, and they're already good enough to run. And it should have some head gaskets in it. I'll get rid of them. I'm going to go out of my way with it with a wire wheel, clean some of the crap off, bring you back, see what we got, and see if we can lap some valves. You're eyeing those, aren't you? Those are awesome. Want one? Take it. Let's see if I can do this handheld without shaking the camera too much. So I cleaned it up. The seats look pretty good. That's the intake. I don't see any pitting, really. They look fairly decent all the way around. So no issue with that. I see a little bit of coining on the head. This is where that head gasket is, and you can see where it's made a little bit of a step. That's literally from the head kind of moving around a little bit. A retorque does help also, especially if it was overheated at some point. Not terrible. Again, this one's got head gaskets. A Beetle doesn't have that. It doesn't have that compression ring. It's just the steel cylinder right on the aluminum of the head, the magnesium. I think it's aluminum. The valves, on the other hand, you can see some. See if I can get you, make sure it's in focus. I don't know if that orange is helping or hurting us. The exhaust valves aren't too bad, but the intake valves, if you look towards the stem, see that pitting? It's like rust that's happened. Valves don't like having deformalities on them because they have a tendency to crack, break in half, and make a mess. So that's not great. Not terrible, but it's not great. I wire wheel them off. And also, the surface does have some pitting in them. If I had a valve cutting tool, it would be awesome, but we don't. What I was thinking is we have the other cylinder head. Why don't we take the valves out of that? They look newer. They look much fresher. I don't even know if they're the same size. The engine that we are working on, see that one's got some coining on it. Down below on the ridge there, there's a slight step at the very edge. So the engine that we're working on is an 1800 out of a Porsche 914, and the original engine that was in it was out of a bus, and it's a 1700. So the jug's a different size. The head won't fit. I can't put those heads from the 1700 on the 1800. They just won't fit. But let's go see if the valves are the same size. If that's the case, maybe they're a better option. Let's turn around and take a peek at what we got. They just look, for lack of better term, shinier. Yeah, they look like they possibly have a little bit less hours on them, although they are cruddy. Let's get a couple of them out. Got the valves out of the other head, cleaned them up. They look decent, probably about the same amount of pitting. Slight, possibly maybe a little bit better improvement, but not much. But there's also another issue, is that the valves, so these are the intake valves. So the original one, actually this is the original one, is larger. The one on the 1800 is larger than the one on the 1700, but the exhaust valves are the same size. So what do we got? All right, the large one goes up there. That's that one. And the exhausts are the same. So I figure what we can do is, if we're going through and we find an exhaust valve that's a little on the questionable side, maybe we'll steal one out of this head. If not, we'll just go together with what we have. Let's go over to Washburn, clean that up a little. Lapping compound. Lapping compound is like liquid sandpaper, the best way to put it. And it makes it so that the two mating surfaces, all right, so we are on that intake valve. And when you spin them together, it marries one surface to the other as far as their, well, that's not going to work now, is it? It's hitting the vise. Let me readjust. That's better. And the idea, see if we can do it without wetting it. Is to marry one to the other. They're mating surfaces so that there's no slight voids between them. And that very fine sandpaper action does that. You'll hear it kind of change too. The sound will change over. This thing sucks, but that's what we got to work with. You could actually put a piece of fuel line underneath it too and hook it to a drill if you want. Let's try it dry. Get back on there. Get. We're losing everything. Operating difficulties. Please stand by. I gotta fix this. That should be good enough. Go clean them up, look at those surfaces, see how they are. They're wiped it off. You can kind of see the contact patch is pretty good. It's pretty wide. Wider isn't always better, but essentially I'm looking for a good seal going all the way around, which I do. A lot of times it's a smaller contact patch, and over time it wears down. It seems like that lapping compound I have is a little bit on the coarse side. And doesn't have any rating on it. I don't see any number as far as like sandpaper. So the color is a little bit darker than I would normally see. Usually it's a little bit more polished when you're done. But we're going to go with that, like you can see on the other ones, the sheen that's on them. But as long as they mate together and make compression, I'll be happy with it. Not that I have a choice anyway. Nothing's open at 1 o'clock in the morning. You can hear it. You hear how it pushes all the material out? You hear it growl at first and then it gets polishy. So when I lift up, it kind of draws the material back in again. And then it gets shiny. So that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to keep working that for a while. There's the aftermath. They look pretty good. And then the valves, the same thing. So I'm going to reassemble them, get them in. We'll pull the other head off, check them out, and do the same. I didn't replace any valve, I just went with what we had. Now this is the side that had the lower compression. And I could definitely see that intake one there. You can see all the color running across it. Impurities or slight passages of leaks. Same on that one too, actually, on the exhaust. So I can see the numbers being lower on this one. Actually, I see rust going right across that one right there. See it? A little chunk right there. So this one will definitely benefit from a cleanup and lapping in. I can see the crap. The intake valves don't look too bad, but that exhaust valve shows a lot of what I was just talking about, those little patterns going across it. Alright, so I'm going to do the same to them, get all that carbon off of there, clean them up, and checking the guides real quick. They look fine. Not sure, but I'm thinking that they're scratches. And the reason why I say that is like the one that goes through the S, it doesn't continue in the middle of the S. And in the VW, the scratch doesn't go through that VW. So I think it might be like it got scratched digging off of it. And I don't see anything on the back showing any kind of cracking back there. But if it blows up, I think that's what we're going to blame it on. I do not have another one to put in there. If I did, I would. But I can't, so I won't. All right, I am really questioning Scarface here. And this is the one out of the other head. And I thought it was a big difference in size. It does come up to the seat. And if you put them up to each other, the one is a hair bigger, and I know the bore was bigger. Let's lap this one in, and we'll see where the pattern appears on it. If it's really ridiculous to one side, or is it, you know, contact and fairly decent where it'll make a good seal. Trying to figure out which one's just going to be the better of two evils, maybe. That's way overkill. Hold on, I'll get you there. And that's real high in the valve. I mean, it's got a good contact patch all the way around, but it's high on the valve. Decisions. I kind of want to go with this one. I know you shake. I got to move you. Hold on. I think it's a judgment call, but I'm going to go with. I think I'm going to go with the smaller valve. I'm just not liking that. I'm going to go look at this a little bit more. Decisions, man. It's like in the center of the heart of it, you know? It's not like it's a piece on the outside. Well, that fuel pump, we'll go try that. It'll work, we change it out. No, we're going to go for what's dead center, the most, everything you got to take apart to go get to. And make a decision. So I don't know how many times I've gone back and forth, but I'm putting it back together one last time. I was going to go with the small valve without the cracks in it, and I'm looking over here, and that's what it is. I think somebody had cleaned it at one point and scratched off some stuff, and I think they scratched some carbon off the center of the valve because there's witness marks here too, so that's making me feel much better. At least that's what I'm telling myself right now. So does it hold true like the Liberty Bell? You crack it, doesn't have the same ring. I think they sound the same. Between a cracked and a non-cracked, or they're both cracked. Well, the heads are ready to go, but this thing needs a bath. I'm gonna take a coffee can and little mineral spirits, give it what for. It's not gonna change much of the color, but I just want to get all the crap knocked off of it, you know, all that stuff. This is actually the next day, but I did go through the trouble of cleaning the block, and it looks fairly decent. You know, we're not going for restoration. We're more of a restoration kind of shop here. All right, so I'm gonna get that oil filter off of there. I'm gonna go check my stash, see if I have one. And we gotta get the oil cooler off. It's got new seals that go on the back. I think we have a crank seal for the front and for the back. and get them in there. We can start reassembling the heads. I painted all the tins. They are hanging out in the corner over there on the pallet. And we can start getting some of the bits and pieces on it. Then clean or dirty. I do have that, new oil. Just a couple of quarts of new oil sitting in it. Not bad. You don't see any chunks coming out of it anyway. My plan is to run it for a little bit with the oil that we have in it. We'll let it flush itself and then we'll run new stuff again through it. All right, so we'll get another filter for that. Shouldn't have done that. Yeah. There we go. And those are the two that we need to replace right there. They usually get brittle. Yeah, they're pretty hard. And over time, they'll just start leaking. Sometimes the oil coolers leak themselves too. I'm not sure about this style. On a Beetle they do. This may not be the same situation. Essentially it's a little radiator. You ride out the same way. I'll go see if I got new ones of those. We could pop that back on. No, they're not the same color. Anyway. I have a feeling they might get, they get stuck on the block, not on here. There's more of a recess. All right, well that's fine. Let's, I'm gonna go clean that up a little bit. We'll bolt that back on. We can need a little grease to hold them in place, or will they stay? See how that does. You'll know if you don't got it, right? Buzz that. What you want to do next? We can probably do this seal. We'll do the crank one when it's off this stand, because you gotta take that flywheel back off. Put the other end. Alright, I screwed up. I got one extra washer. That one? Yeah. Nope, that one's got one. Here's your problem. Okay, let's go see if we have that crank seal. Front pulley seal? I don't know what it's called. Suck them down. Using a speed wrench. Speed wrench kind of keeps you out of trouble with this tiny hardware. What I mean by speed wrench, that's a speed wrench. Doesn't make you over torque stuff. Let's go find that. Here's the kit that came with it. Got all the gaskets for the head. I don't see them, do you? Well, that sucks. Wouldn't think I would have had to order them separate. Especially the crank seal too. Hopefully it's... I'm gonna go check. I think I have a Beetle one. Not that that's gonna help us for the front seal. But, well, I didn't see that coming at all. I'll look again, just in case it magically reappears. Like when you're looking for something when you lost it. All right. So that's the burned up engine. Here's one for a regular Beetle. It is, nope, it's too small. Close but too small. That sucks. The thing that would have sucked more if I were to take and rip that one out with a screwdriver and then went looking for the new one. No, we're just going to run what's in it for now. I actually think the front one we can get off no problem. We could actually get that off in the car. It's not too bad. But the back one you have to pull the motor again. Not that that's terrible neither on this, but it's the kind of thing you want to do it while you're in there, right? Plus that flywheel is a different spacing slightly in the back. So you may already have an issue there. I think that head's ready to go on. We're going to suck that on, torque it down, and do the same for both sides. Don't they look pretty? We need the ones that go underneath. And I was having a problem when I was taking it apart. It was hanging up on these. I kind of bent them down, got the cylinder heads off. The pushrod tubes are not like a Beetle where they get squeezed in between the head and the block as you're assembling it. They actually get inserted later. So you're able to pop these right up now, put the pushrod tubes in, and go. So we need that one and that one, I think. Everything else can stay. Well, I was hoping they were the same. That one's got a little extra appendage. We'll figure that out. So we get those pushrod tubes installed. Did one. I like this setup better than the Beetle ones for sure. The other style is you're trying to finagle the head on and get all the head bolts started. It kind of fights you. They're crushed tubes. They take like a preload. They're not solid like this. Yeah, give them a little bit of assembly lube. Let's go tap one in. So for those pushrod tubes, I guess that's what this spring does. It goes down. See if you can get it in there. And holds tension. That's a little bit of light pressure on the edges of those tubes just so they don't lift out. I don't think they're likely to do so, but I don't know. And then the little cutaways that are in the rocker assemblies. That's what they lock into. I gotta get a little screwdriver to pop that one in. It actually wasn't too bad. Just gotta make sure I got them in the right spot. Make sure they're pushing on all of them. Cool, what we'll do is we'll spin it up Haven't adjusted the valves yet. We'll spin it up and let them settle a little bit, and then we'll go around and adjust the valves. Let's go give her a little spin. Yeah, I want everything to settle a little bit before I adjust them. Ooh, that did not sound good. I don't like that. I think it was the starter. I hope it was the starter. We're gonna find out. I didn't put my keeper in on this side yet for the pushrod tubes too. Everything looks like it's moving okay. I'm gonna put that keeper in. It goes just the valves. That line right there, that's number 1 cylinder. So if I make the rotor point at number 1, close enough, so gotta back it up a hair. Now I can adjust the valves on that cylinder. I'm gonna both be for 6th thou. Tight, tight. Because it has all new, new head gaskets and everything, so all the dimensions are gonna be off. None of that stuff is gonna stay the same. It's also why I kind of wanted to spin it a little bit. I'm just looking for light drag on it. A lot of times you think you got it, but when you tighten the nut down, it'll change on you. So you just have to, if it got tighter, you go the other way. If it got looser, you fudge it a little the other way before you tighten it. That one's pretty good. Not bad. They're going to do that to all 4 cylinders. All right, they're all adjusted. Let's get some numbers. And as long as you stay above 90, and even is good too. Sometimes a big difference between them is not healthy. It'll give a lopey idle. But let's see what we get. My tool popped off. Hate when that happens. Joke there somewhere. All right, try that again. 120. Which is good. We had 145 on one before, which is kind of weird. Everything being on the older side. Come on, get on there. Ooh, that's starters. I don't know if it's that flywheel or that starter. It just does not sound healthy. A little over 125. We're going to call it 125. And the other side was the side that was low before. I did have the cylinder heads on the opposite sides. The driver's side is supposed to have the temp probe on it. Not that we're going to use it anyway, but they are swapped, so that can make a difference. And hopefully, as long as these numbers are up around 100, we're good. Uh-oh. Lost power. Hold on. 110, 115, which is I'm happy about. We'll call it 115 to make me feel better. You see the other side? Barely, huh? Battery's flashing. We're gonna make it? Come on, you can do it. The pressure's got me. Uh-oh. Oh. It said 0. I was like, oh no. I'm gonna lock in. A 110. Perfect. Nice. They're all within 10 pounds of each other. 15 pounds. I'll go with that. So the first time around, we didn't have it spinning very fast. We got like, I think it was 80, 75, 75, and 70. And then we got a better starter on it. We got 125, 140. I forget what the last two were before. I think they're around in the hundreds. Now we swapped the cylinder heads around, cleaned them off. We've gone 120, 125. This still is the strongest cylinder. 110 and 115. I'm more than happy with that. It should run just fine. Now that I jinxed myself. All right, well, that's good. I'm going to go take some time and start chasing a bunch of the tins, putting all the metal work back on. It's kind of boring. If something is interesting to bring up, I'll turn the camera back on. We're going to start putting all the sheet metal bits and pieces back on. We still have to do the carb too. At least pop the top and take a look at that and see what's going on with it. One last thing I want to do before we get too much further assembled. This is the oil pressure switch. And that should... So that's the oil light being on. Like you turn the key on, the oil light would be on. Where's my crank button? We're gonna go crank it over, see if that light goes out, see if we build oil pressure. Well, that's good. No, huh? I'm gonna go, maybe my oil level's not up high enough. I did dump 2 quarts in it, but it's been leaking a little out of the sides from turning on side to side. Yeah, I got nothing on the stick. But like I said, I had it leaning from side to side, so it may have dumped some out. Let's throw... maybe another quart and a half. See if that registers. No sense going forward if you don't have oil pressure, right? And now we're on it. Yeah, a little on the low side, but that's okay. Should be enough to get it though. It comes back on. Are you going to come back on? Yep, there it goes. Yeah, let's go do it again. Come on, get in there. In the hole. And what afterwards is how much time it takes for the oil pressure to squeeze out of its little cubby holes and the pressure to drop back down. It's a little on the long side. There it goes. Yeah. Usually it comes on fairly quick. It kind of tells you how tight the crank bearings are and everything, because it's the pores inside the block where all the oil is able to squeeze back out when it's building pressure up. That or the oil pressure switch could just even be a little slow to respond, but it is getting oil pressure and I'm happy for that. So I'm picking away, putting the tins on there, going through the pieces, the exhausts, one of the pipes are blown out. But the fan shrouds, I went to go look into them, start cleaning them up. One is the original one that was on the engine in the car, which was this one. And this is the one that came with the spare motor that was all rusty and crappy. So what the purpose of this is, it has a fan in the center of it, the fan's right there. Runs right off the engine, draws air in through the center, blows it out across the cylinders, blows it out across the cylinders. And it's got a thermostat set up on it. It's got a little linkage right here. A couple of paddles. It restricts, I'll show you this one, the flow of air. So when it's cold, it'll be like that. It's kind of blocking everything off, slowing stuff down. And then as it warms up, it opens the passage up to full airflow. And it's got a linkage rod that goes across it, and it's, so you just about stabbing my finger. I let go, pops right back. Well, here's the one that was on the car that was in there. The rod is bent. If you try and operate it, it was just doing it a second ago. It was popping and hanging up. So maybe if we got full thermostat, it would jam in one position. The bars got a pretty good tweak to it. Let's just be down. Pop out. I gotta do it two-handed. Straighten that out so that we get a little bit better response out of it. So I'm gonna screw with that. But there's another thing too I want to show you. And that is the thermostats that are underneath it. So this is the one that was on the engine in the car again. And it's essentially an accordion. As it heats up, it expands. As it cools off, it shrinks down. Well, that was expanded all the way out like the car is hot. So that one is beat. The Beetle type engines have it too. Different setup, but this is the one that was on the parts engine. And that's how it's supposed to look when it's cold. Now, that would make it run cold all the time, not run hot, but there still could have been an issue with what was going on. And there was actually a knuckle, I forgot to mention it. There's a knuckle on the left-hand side inside that was popped over and hyperextended. Let's see if I can crash everything to the ground. So this knuckle was popped the other way and was operating in the wrong capacity and kind of jammed itself up. So that could have played a major role in it too. Again, I'm not quite sure. I'm just guessing, but it's interesting that we found it. Anyway, I'm going to try swapping those thermostats around. If not, I'm going to leave it in the cold position, and I will have to hunt one down. They're not, I don't believe they're the same as the Beetle. I'm going to go take this one apart, possibly, and see if I can save that. And it has to be able to encapsulate a cable. This is the cable right here. And that runs through a little wheel underneath and hooks to that flap door as the temperature changes. And this is in the exhaust flow, not the exhaust flow, the hot air flow. So this would be right roughly down in here. And what happens is that fan is blowing air across the fins down. It exits that flow out underneath the engine with heater boxes and another heat shields and all. Well, this is in the path of that air that's gone through the jugs. So as the jugs are putting off more and more heat, this will open up, get hotter, open the vents up top, let more air flow across the jugs, cool it back down. As it cools back down, this shrinks back down, and it finds its happy medium. That's how it operates. You can get it with a 9. Problem is, you can't really put heat on it. It's a thermostat. Not enough heat to cook it up to get it glowing, because you'll kill it. It's a sealed chamber on the other side. So far, so good. See if the ass end will want to come loose. We need a 13 for that. I was expecting much more of a fight. Good. These things are expensive. I know on the Beetles they are. I'm sure on this they really are. It's got a different end on it than what a Beetle would have. So I'm going to go clean that up. I'll gut that bracket and I'll swap everything over. Put that underneath. Well, I guess I should make sure it works before I put it all together. It'll be a good time if I want to put an oxygen sensor in. See if I can weld that up, make a patch for it. It's blown out down there too. Looks like somebody tried welding it with something. Coat hanger? Yeah, sure. So I just got done bolting up the front fan assembly, and that's got with the heat ducts in it that we were talking about earlier. And now that everything's kind of hooked up and lined up, you can see how, you know, spring loaded it wants to bounce back. And the cable comes up from the bottom from that thermostat. There's a little pulley on the bottom. So right now is in the totally hot. So you want flaps like this, it will make it so that all the air is blown over the top of the cylinders. And then when it's cooler, you're more this direction. That's what this cable is coming up. I'm just gonna go clamp that on roughly in that position. As that thermostat opens up, the vents open up. And as it cools off, it draws them back shut again. Pretty simple actually. And it should fail if there's a problem with the cable or something breaks. It should fail in the wide open, you know, open thermostat. Get ready to throw the intake on. And took the carb off because we're gonna have to go through that. But here's the center of that plenum. Definitely looks like water got into the intake. And it's kind of what I was talking about on the first one, where it looked like possibly down the hatch, where the roof line came down, there was a break, and then the air cleaner, I went sitting onto the top of the air cleaner where the two bolts were, maybe pulling to the center of the bolt, running down the center of the carb, and it was parked outside. So I think of why that was so cruddy. And the intake, when we took the heads off too, had all that crap on them. So there's a different bottom end, but this is the original, you know, feed system, because we're not going with fuel injection. And we can go throw that in sandblaster. You get all that crap out of there. I'll paint the box, get some tubes on there, and I know I keep promising. We'll cut into this thing and see what the insides of this look like. If water went through it, there's a good possibility it may have even gotten into the float balls. Oh, time will tell. Plenum time. Yeah, checking out the intake, you actually see where water filled up the center of it and ran down. Looks like it only did the one side. That'd be the one side we saw that flakiness on top of the piston, maybe. I don't know, I'm just kind of jumping in, showing little bits and pieces here, but the wrenching part of it, I'm trying to get us up to the point where we fire it up. J-tubes, but tips and tricks I'm going to throw in as we go along. J-tubes are connected by little rubber bushings, adapters. Wait, what do you want to call them? Sleeves? Alright, we'll go with sleeves. Are petrified as a rock, kind of same as like a intake boot on a motorcycle. They get hard as a rock. You soak them in hot water, they will come back. You can work them, get them installed, they'll stretch out, do what they need to do, and clamp down. They will go back, as soon as they cool off, they will go back to almost rock hard again, but it allows you to work with them without tearing them up and, you know, cracking them or breaking them, and just plain fighting with them. Well, I'm pretty sure that's where they go. Took each one, I sandblasted it, ran water through it, and then ran compressed air through them. They had a bunch of crap inside them too. One of the tubes is really rusty internally. And I would think we need them all facing I get it. Just start them on that first. It would help greatly if you took the clamps. Made sure the clamps weren't all the way closed. Kind of defeating the purpose. Let's try that again. Uno. So you think the chances are they're gonna have spark, huh? I'm gonna go upstairs and see if I got might have a pair. If not, I already even drew a vacuum. Now I get a piece of vacuum hose. Piece of vacuum hose on there, and if I draw on it, it'll make the plate on the bottom turn as a diaphragm inside here. And whenever you're trying to rev an engine or give it more gas, you have to advance the timing, and that is part of it. Is a vacuum advance. Underneath there, there's a set of weights essentially, and as it just mechanically spins faster, they come out and they also give advance. You usually grab the rotor, and however much that rotor moves, that's how much advance is on the bottom side. That's retard. Yeah, it's retarded. That is for when you let off the gas, and it kind of helps with, I think the idea is for emissions and possibly backfiring. I'm not quite sure. Most of the time you just leave it unplugged if your system has it, fine, but I think it's more, I'm pretty sure it's for emissions for when you let off. You're bogging down a hill. I'm gonna leave that funky rotor on there. I still have to do the points, but I'm gonna leave that goofy rotor on there with the rev limiter. Comes out and shorts out. Someone was saying it'll say right on it what RPM it cuts out. Heat's coming on. You see it? I don't see it. 5850. It's pretty high. This was in a this is the 914 engine. I keep getting screwed up. All right, I'm gonna go do points. I'll be back. I think we're down to the last piece of the puzzle, and that would be carb. It's already had evidence of water going through it. It kind of depends on how the inside of the float bowl looks. Don't have a carb kit for this. It's got a good one. And I would suspect that the accelerator pump diaphragm is probably going to be no good. Just because that's what they do. We got a little linkage here that has to come off. What's that held on by? A little tiny clip. I'm going to launch across the room. That's that one. It's got the tag at least, that's good. You order carb kits. They want that number that's on there. Think there's more that needs to come off? You think we got it? We took out 5. Let's go give that a crack. Judging by the rotten fuel leaking out, and it's not looking like a good sign, is it? Let's give her a thorough beating. There it goes. Take your bets. What are we gonna find? That linkage has got me. Get it up, I could turn it sideways. Choke there. Come out of the hole. Jesus. Are you kidding me? Go the other way. There we go. Got a lot of rust sitting in the bottom. I wouldn't say that's terrible. Definitely needs to be cleaned. Let's get a needle. See, I need a punch for that. Do I? Kind of get it with little pliers. It's just gonna slip right off of there. It is. Let's give her a push. There you go. The needle looks really good. Not a bunch of crap on that at all. It looks like it was last used when fuel was still fuel. Before they start putting booze in it. Get some jets out of it. Just having a conversation today with someone. See, those carbs you can just kind of take apart and put it back together, and the same stuff doesn't fit. Well, here's an example right here. So these jets, and I bet you those are the same physical size. Are you going to remember that that says $132? I wish they not even say the same thing. Yeah, 1.4. All right. So now, for now, I'm going to lay them out. Why would they be different? Oh, that's why. Yeah. They're not firing at the same time. And then we got one on top. 170 to the right. There you go. Sounds good, huh? Sounds like what I sound like when I'm waking up. Getting out of bed. Yeah, so 170 on that side. Damn it. Holy crap. How many are yelling at me right now to put lube on it? Yes, there was a joke there too. All right. You just already mix them up today. The more corroded one was on the left. Oh, yeah. Yes, I did. I'll look back at the footage. Let's go get our squirters out of there. Come on. That should pop out of there. So when you stomp on the gas, that's where it squirts out of. Those little two windshield washer looking jobs. They're your accelerator pump, because you need an extra shot of fuel when you're punching it, or else it'll bog, it'll fall on its face. So that's what the accelerator pump does. And that's that little diaphragm I was talking about earlier that goes bad. It's probably an idle jet. First one of these I ever had apart, so. Oof, that one's clogged. That was on that side. Losing my balls. Don't want to be losing my balls. A lot of little check balls. I did not see where they fell out of, do you? I think they maybe came out of the squirter. That main is totally clogged down below too. They had the crud in it. Is there another access to that? No. What else we got? Let's go get our accelerator pump off. I'm going to leave the choke components together. I don't see really a good reason to remove all that. I think we'll soak it in the ultrasonic cleaner with that facing up. This, on the other hand, is going to be whether we get a squirt or not. I bet you this is going to be petrified. That's my guess. There's a spring underneath there, and that's where, every time that you stomp on it, that pushes down, it gives a shot of fuel up to those jets. I think that is going to end up being junk, but we're going to run it anyway. Let's see if I can get a little. There we go. Kind of. Don't rip. Yeah, that's how it was a rock. I need one of those. Maybe what I will do. I was thinking we soak it for tonight. I can come back tomorrow and put it together, see if I can grab a carb kit anywhere. All right, out of time. That is totally clogged, huh? Although I still want to fire this engine up tonight. I think we'll see if you have the capacity to get us a carb kit. That's what was getting me, that linkage. Look at that, look at that. Doink. I want to move this down. It's not too bad. Ah. A soaking she will go. I was able to get those last two pulled up. You can definitely see that one's supposed to be blocked off. You see the hole size difference in the metering. That's why it's important to keep likes on like side. That annoying noise in the background is the ultrasonic cleaner doing its business on our carburetor. So the biggest problem with this whole setup is it's sucking in its own hot air. So essentially, air comes in through this fan, blows across the tins, across the fins on the cylinder heads and the cylinders, and exits out the bottom. And the muffler's right here also. There's a lot of hot air. Exits the back of the car. Mostly like under the car. Like if this was in a bus, there would be a seal that goes all the way around and then comes down here and seals this part of the engine away from this part. This is totally sealed off. The muffler's totally sealed. And there's fins in the side of the bus up high on each quarter panel. It sucks cool air in through the fan, heats everything up, and it's expelled out the bottom. And this is all pretty much the muffler sitting right here. There's no guarding, there's nothing in between. So the hot air that's coming out from underneath is getting sucked right back in. And that's more than likely what cooked that first engine that was in here. It was just not segregated good enough for the temperature. So we got to come up with something to fix that so that it doesn't happen again. Let's go take a peek at the car. So the car does have like vents up here that appear to go down the quarter panels. And you see over there's a hole. Looks like air's allowed to get in. But that, again, the base of that is right about here. And then on a bus, all this would be sealed off now. This is just open to itself. We can either try to maybe seal that off better when we get it back in. Possibly what we can do is like on a, say like a square back, there's a rubber boot that goes from that inlet to the back of the car and draws cool air in that way. We do not have that on this, but possibly we can maybe even do something like, if we take this out of here, maybe we could punch a circle right dead center and make like a, you know what we could do? Like the Batmobile, the cone that comes out for the thrust. Maybe we can get something like that. Especially if we're able to match, those. That would look kind of cool, actually. Well, we'll get to that a little bit later. I just want to show you that while the ultrasonic cleaner is humming away. See if we see anything else. I'm not sure what he uses for a voltage regulator and where it is. I'm guessing. I don't know if that's it right there. I think so. It feels like that's the plug for the. And then it might have wiring out back. I see this battery terminal. I would think that looks like a battery sits right in that location. Over here we have some fun ahead of us. Figuring all that crap out, huh? So, well, digging through the parts pile, this build, I did find the rear tin. I guess that was on the, actually on this engine, which was 914. So this is the piece that would block the difference between that muffler and cut off that whole area. That was not on the car. I don't know if that can fit in there, but we'll screw with that first. And as you can see, it's drawing air from a different direction. And we can separate it. And then again, it still needs a seal that goes all the way around. Missing something here. Goes all the way around and seals that off. And I think when we first took it out, it seemed like I had a decent amount of not that happening. Let's just so we'll see. Possibly, at least it's something to work with. Maybe we can work with that and make some pieces to fill the panel out. You got to remember that the engine shake zone moves, so you get whatever it is has to be like a foam or a rubber that ties the two together. Yeah, I don't think much fuel was going through that jet. Well, I'm a tad bit surprised, but I was able to find the carb kit in stock and the main seal for the crank. So I'm going to just go knock that out, put it back together, and let's go speed this up a little bit and get to the good part. Not that it showed up, but there is a diaphragm that goes into the choke on an angle like that, and is a pull-off. It also has temperature spring in it that gets power, and as it heats up, it'll pull the choke off. There's a big coiled up spring inside there, and as that spring gets hotter, it changes its position. But you can fine tune it. That's what these notches are for here. And you can see there's no choke. Add a little bit more. I'm going to set it probably about right in the middle. It's a good spot for me, and we'll see how that does over time when we go to run the car. And you can kind of fine tune it from there. The distributor is not going to work. This carburetor does not have an exit port for the vacuum advance that I showed. I'm not sure where it would have been plugged in, probably on the base somewhere. Possibly that plug right there may have had a tube coming out of it. To grab vacuum, and there's no place on the intake manifold. That distributor was the one that was on the fuel injected motor, and that had different ports for that coming out. So we're gonna have to swap the distributor over to the one that is still on the other block that was in the car, that has carburetor on it, and that just has centrifugal advance. That's it. I am looking for that. That's where a throttle cable hooks into. I actually think we were out of pieces. Yeah. All new goodies. That's not for it. All right. Go get her installed. Well, we are to the point putting gas in her. See where that goes to. Eventually you should stop. I think we're good. Let's get her up to about that much. Then we get the jumper pack hooked up. We have to hook so the point side is already hooked to the negative side of the coil, and we got to put 12 volts on this side. And you got 12 volts that should go into the carb that will help warm the choke up and turn that off. I'm going to leave that disconnected for now, and maybe we'll just jam a screwdriver or something. Not too concerned about that. This is going to put power out, so we'll keep this away from harm's way. This is the alternator output. I think we're good. I don't see anything else that's in our way. Speak now, forever hold your peace. All right, let's get some power. Make some power. This is gonna go really good, or it's gonna suck. I'm hoping for the good. All right, this is our 12 volts to the coil. I just cleaned those points that I put in there. I did not put new ones in because I couldn't find them. So we may or may not have spark. Shall we? Give her. Sounds good too. And out of gas. Sounds awesome. Let's go fill her up, try it again. See if we can back that choke off so we get out of play. If we can get it with two. Nope. I don't hear any valves tapping, not that you could hear it anyway, but let's go that way. And our gas is filled all the way up to the top. We have an air fuel mix down below. I can try and dial in and see if we can get it to clean up a little smoother, but I think it needs to kind of warm up. We can do that more in the car. Where you want to go? Right about here? In case anything shoots out on fire. Let's go. Let's go. Round two. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Find out. And it's out of gas again. Sounds awesome, huh? Burning off some paint. I don't see anything dripping out of it. And no valvey tappy noises, no knocky noises. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I'm psyched. Great. And I literally did not use any new parts. The carb kit and the engine gasket set. That's it. Everything that was on was between the two engines that we put together. From the off of there. From the even the plug wires, everything. Plugs, kill power to it. It's gonna burn off a bunch of paint too. Awesome, awesome. Cool as that. So we're in it for cheap. And I got a good education on these Type 4 motors, how they kind of go together. They're not bad at all. They really aren't. It's just getting used to compared to a regular, Beetle type engine. And again, like I said, I swapped the distributor over to the other one. It doesn't have the vacuum advance because that carb doesn't have a port for it. And we'll see how that operates. Actually, just burn off some crap. Oh, there's a bunch of cleaning fluid that's on the inside of that cover and all too. Nothing's on fire, hopefully. All right, guys. I think with that, we're gonna go sign off. We got to the point I want to get. On the car, the next thing is probably we're gonna go prep it and get it ready to put the engine in. So we got to change the transmission fluid, look at the motor mounts for the trans, that kind of stuff. Anything that we need to go take care of, we'll go jump on. Clutch pedal, clutch cable, throttle cable, that kind of stuff. And that will probably be on the next one because I got to get this off the lift. I got some other stuff that my daily drivers need a little bit of love. I got to take care of them. But I want to get to at least a point where it yard drives. After that, really, we just got to go through brakes and drivetrain components, clean up the body some. But there's, I'm not going to go paint this right away. All right, I'm babbling now. I'm psyched. I'm psyched that ran good. Guys, till the next one. I'll see you soon. Thanks for hanging out. Take care.